Some of the most common forms of social media in today's society are Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. In society's day to day life, all of these different social media platforms can easily be viewed by using cell phones. Cell phones have become a platform of increasing complexity, affecting people's lives in ways that were unimaginable just a few years ago. Anywhere I go, whether it be to the mall, to the movies, or even out to dinner, I find people, including myself, feeling the constant urge to post a status on Facebook describing what new place they are visiting, or tweeting about what they are eating for dinner, or posting a picture in Snapchat. Social media has taken over our day to day lives, and one common concern I have is how is this affecting our society's mental health? A growing body of research has linked the use of cell phones and social media to an increased risk of emotional problems, such as psychological distress, including anxiety, depression, and a range of other nonspecific declines in mental health. Addiction to the internet and cell phones are typical of individuals who show dissatisfaction with life, depression, personality disorders, or social anxiety. Social anxiety is a very common health issue. Social anxiety is understood as a specific and lasting fear that a person has various social situations where they feel, or at least believe, that they are critically observed by others, experiencing an irrational fear that their behavior is subject to criticism and rejection by other individuals. Several studies have shown that low self esteem is one of the influencing psychological factors to suffer from social anxiety. A study on social anxiety demonstrated that a person who evaluates the self in a negative way is prone to believing that their peers are of the same opinion, and this anticipation of negative evaluation may result in anxiety in social situations. Due to a fear that these individuals may develop a fear of receiving a negative evaluation in their relationships with others, these studies have found that those suffering from social anxiety show a greater preference for online interaction through different social medias rather than face to face contact. Excessive internet and cell phone usage has been associated with higher levels of stress. A prospective longitudinal study was conducted to explore relationships between the use of smartphones and health outcomes. The overall number of hours using the computer and smartphones during the week was associated with an increased risk of prolonged stress at the start of the study and symptoms of depression at the 1 year follow up. In addition to the constant social media usage, the amount of text messages sent and received each day was also associated with the condition of prolonged stress. Depression is a common disorder affecting more than 300 million people around the world. It is also the leading cause of disability in the world for people ages 15 to 44, and it is among the strongest predictors of suicide. Some people are vulnerable to depression because they have a tendency to generate interpretations of stressful life events that have overly negative implications for their future and for their self worth. Twitter is the eighth most popular website in the United States and the third most popular social media site. 1 in 4 online adults use Twitter, and over 350,000 tweets are sent every minute. Worldwide, there are over 2 billion Facebook members and 330 million Twitter users. 83% of young adults in America use social networking sites and have an average of 7 social media accounts. There is an emerging body of empirical work showing an association between social media and negative moods such as loneliness, anxiety, suicide rates, and depressive symptoms. It appears that social media may be contributing to these negative moods via an emotional contagion effect. For instance, when one person's emotional state triggers the same emotional state in another person or group of people. The emotional contagion effect of social media was explained through a specific experimental design. The news feeds of over 500,000 Facebook users were manipulated. The results showed that those randomly assigned to receive news feeds with fewer positive expressions produced fewer positive posts and more negative posts. The purpose of this study was to examine the effect of social media content on cognitive vulnerability to depression. It was hypothesized that individuals who had more negative Twitter content would exhibit higher levels of cognitive vulnerability, resulting in greater levels of depressive symptoms. Twitter's easily searchable timeline, as well as the ability for users to tweet and retweet unlimited content, make it an ideal social media site to test the hypothesis that there is an effect of social media content on cognitive vulnerability in depression. Over 90% of women in the United States report body dissatisfaction. Body dissatisfaction, a negative attitude toward body size and shape, is a risk factor for eating disorders and predicts low self-esteem, depression, and obesity. Instagram exposes users to beauty ideals similar to those in mainstream media, but is distinct as users are encouraged to post their own images and gain feedback through liking and commenting. Receiving feedback puts pressure on users to conform to beauty ideals and evaluate oneself as an object based on appearance. Results suggest that women who engage in appearance-related comparisons on Instagram might be vulnerable to feeling dissatisfied with their appearance, body size, and shape. These findings are consistent with research suggesting that Instagram users who followed appearance-based accounts, such as celebrities and models, report more body image concerns, which these feelings could result in multiple types of eating disorders. A study from the Cyber Psychology, Behavior, and Social Networking article resolves the inconsistencies of screen time, social media, and mental health. The study examines the association between hours of time spent on social media use and psychological distress in a sample of New Zealand adults. After adjusting for demographics and time spent on various other activities such as exercise, sleep, and chores, social media use correlated positively with psychological distress. Social media use, one of the largest per hour unit associations with psychological distress, compared with time spent engaging in other various activities, the association was very weak. After this study, it was concluded that only excessive amounts of social media usage would result in realistic changes of distress. In a study examining about 500,000 adolescents in the United States, time spent on social media correlated positively with depressive symptoms and suicide-related outcomes. It was concluded that screen time should be considered an important risk factor for depression and suicide. Since these findings were published, several studies have supported the theory that the use of social media can negatively impact mental health. However, social media has a positive effect when people follow fewer strangers and receive positive feedback from their own peers. These are the several references I used to conduct my research for my findings of the effects of social media on mental health.